Hey everyone, this is Thyworm with a Paladin spin to win build for patch 0.7.4b in last Epoch. I'm planning several versions of this spin to win build, so if you enjoy last Epoch builds, consider subscribing. This is the first iterations of a few build guides I have planned that use Warpath, and this one relies on pure speed, kiting and bleed damage. This build clears monoliths extremely fast by making use of specific uniques, some interesting passives and some controversial choices in the Warpath tree. Using bleed isn't the most obvious choice, I suppose, for a paladin, but I found a bunch of weapons that would be really fun with this, plus some other items, so I wanted to give it a go. I reached 44 monoliths so far and 144 arena waves. It's pretty decent and I'm having a blast with how fast this clears the monolith. It's not the best build for arenas, mainly because all the movement speed is kind of wasted there. For the arena, I'll probably try to come up with a more solid version that focuses more on survival, although my current stats are decent, I would say. I'm using a one-hander and shield, because we're not trying to do damage with Warpath, but just apply bleeds. It also allows me to use Ring of Shields more efficiently and Shield Rush, our panic ability. Because we're applying the bleeds with our Warpath, they skill off of strength. Each point of strength increases bleed damage by 4%, which is pretty significant. Each point in strength also gives 5% armor increase, and we like armor because of Uruzil's Pride, which gives mana regen based on armor. This means we're taking Juggernaut. We have a shield, we block, so take Gladiator. The remaining points go into Fearless for defenses. One fatality is 15 poison, void and necrotic protection, which is useful. Then looking at the Paladin tree, the good nodes are all the way to the top for bleeds. To get there we're picking Honor for more block chance, Defiance for all those resistances, Valor for more vitality, 1 point in Majasa Firebrand allowing us to take 3 points in strength in the connecting node, 5 points in Faith Armor, which you can complete later if you level beyond 80, Penance for a massive 200% chance to bleed, which is really huge, and finally Redemption in the Paladin tree for bleed effectiveness and damage gain. We also take 27 points in Forge Guard, although I have only 25 right now. We take Prime Fighter for strength, Steel Aegis for more block chance and block armor, 7 out of 10 Rallying Block for additional armor and elemental resistances, and we're blocking all the time, currently 50% of the time, so these bonuses add up pretty fast and they last 4 seconds. Finally, Smelter's Might for additional chance to bleed and a bit of Ignite too, just for fun. With all this and your weapon, you will be around 300% chance to bleed, applying 3 bleed stacks with each hit. The primary damaging skill is Warpath, and like I said, this skill is all about applying bleeds and the movement speed, because we want to be fast in order to clear those monoliths in no time. First, however, take the mana reduction on Warpath, because you need to be able to spin endlessly. Unbound Storm and also Reckless Spin. You do take more elemental damage, yes, but that is the drawback of going fast. Other mana regen nodes are simply too far away to make this work otherwise. To mitigate some of the damage, we're taking 4 points in Whirling Barrier and then Raya's Grip, the pull mechanic. That is an excellent mechanic that pulls enemies in. Take 2 points in Endless Vortex to increase the pull range by 100%. Pulling enemies in is a vital part of the build. We make enemies chase our Warpath basically. We can easily group enemies together and then apply massive bleeds while we are just dancing around them. Without pull, this build is really much less efficient. Once you get the hang of how pull works, you can also use it to remove enemies from their own AoE abilities and things like that. It's a great addition to our Warpath. On top of the tree, we're taking Iron Reach for increased reach, which goes really well with pull, and of course we're taking the Quicksilver Wind for that sweet movement speed. This really makes Warpath super fun to use, but it costs more mana, hence our other choices. The second skill is Holy Aura. 0.7.4 nerfed this quite a bit, but it is still okay. 30% increased damage and 60 elemental protection is still pretty decent. The aura is going to be rather defensive with only Call to Arms and Fanaticism as damage node, increasing damage and attack speed. Demoralizing Aura applies slow, which synergizes well with the Ring of Shields slow. Shelter from the Storm is a good amount of protection. Against the odds is more block protection and a little bit of heal, and the other against the odds provides minor ward gain. I just had a point left here, you can also use it for dodge for example. Our third vital skill for defenses is Ring of Shields. The idea is to have these up at all times because of the protection they provide. We also want as many shields as possible. We're taking Reinforcement and On the Path, which synergizes nice as well with Warpath. We take 2 out of 5 Bastion in order to reach 3 additional shields with Amass, take 4 points in Banding, giving shields some more durability, 2 points in Heavy Burden, slowing enemies, and 1 point in Pulsing Shields, which push enemies away. We're pulling them in with Warpath Pull. We're pushing them away with this, we're slowing them as well. All of this is super nice because it allows us to remain at a safe distance while we are still applying bleed stacks. Finally, top it off with Enduring Defense, making the skill last longer than the cooldown period, so they are always available. The 2 remaining skills are really up to you. I took Shield Rush because it counters the one drawback you can see over here. Pull also pulls in enemies, including their AoE. So I pulled this Dragon Boss in and his AoE and got one shot. To counter this, you want to be able to get away from enemies fast, so I use Shield Rush. I'm taking all defensive nodes, some stun and a bit of damage. Be sure to take Rush Mastery so it's not as expensive and you can actually use it. The 5th skill is kind of pointless because we're spinning endlessly, so I decided to summon a Manifest Armor, but do whatever you want. This armor is super weak, he's dead in no time. I have no real stats to support him, but yeah, you gotta put something in there, I would say. Now let's talk about gear. My gear choices are definitely defining factors in this build, starting with the elephant in the room, mana. You need a ton of mana regeneration for a build like this, so Urzel's Pride is amazing. It allows me to spin and still regenerate mana, to use the Holy Aura and the Ring of Shields. Another mana saver can be Mana Efficiency Amulet, preferably with damage over time on it. Then to movement speed. I'm using Storm Tide. It has 37% movement speed, but a pretty significant disadvantage. When you stop moving, you are shocked, reducing stun and elemental resistances by 100. Now that is not good, but here is the nice part. Warpath is not considered movement. I can just use Warpath to move around and the debuff will never trigger because I'm not actually using the movement key. Genius. Another impressive unique is the Wing Guards, gloves with decent armor, amazing attack speed increases to apply our bleeds faster, a chance to gain haste on hit, which improves movement speed even more, and with the drawback that I can't crit. But that's fine, because I don't want to crit, I want to stack bleeds. And because bleed is a damage over time, a dot, and dots don't crit, I don't really need crit. For weapons there are some options. Taste of Blood hardly does any initial damage, but the bleeds stack up super quickly. If your chance to bleed is above 100%, which it will be with this build, you will stack bleeds sometimes twice or thrice per hit. This is my favorite weapon for sure. Another nice weapon for some better health leech and more initial damage is the Undisputed with good base damage and health leech. Or you can craft a custom weapon, focusing on a stat like damage over time to increase your damage and chance to bleed as affixes. Now the gear is standard, get those defenses up, glancing blows, high block chance, because we're using a shield, no surprises there. And here's the build in action. It's an eternal spin to win, need for bleed build, and you can see all the mechanics at work here. We are pulling the enemies, we are simultaneously pushing them back, we're slowing them down while they are in our slipstream of carnage, and we're applying bleeds at the same time. You should always keep Ring of Shields activated and just hit Holy Aura when you encounter bosses or tougher enemies. It's a great DPS increase. Like I mentioned, it is primarily made for clearing monoliths at an amazing speed while gaining decent XP. Arena works well if you spin around in circles enough. Also leveling this wasn't all that difficult. I'm going to make an Ignite version of this build as well, which should be great fun too. And I'm thinking of a Void version spin to win also. And maybe, just maybe, a pure melee physical damage build with crit and just straight out damage. I really enjoyed this skill. Follow me on Twitter guys, at Thyworm. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. See you all soon. Bye bye.